Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Scott Barb. I'm with the Livingston County Department of Planning, and today we are welcoming you out to what I believe is our second brown bag lunch event via Zoom. We hope that you found all the instructions and are on Zoom with us today. Couple of items of housekeeping we'd like to start with. Typically, we go around the room at our normal events and we introduce one another or each other, but we're going to forego that today because we don't have access to a chat box. We're just going to have to see what's on the website. This is being recorded, and this will be, I believe, placed as well on our Livingston County YouTube channel at some point in the future, in addition to our planning website. Toward the end of the presentation, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. There will be instructions toward the end of the presentation. And Rob Stanford, our host from the County Planning Department, will also be doing the muting and unmuting of guests and handing over the presentations as needed today as well. I'd like to introduce today both Carrie Martin and Mike Davis from the Michigan Department of Transportation. Both Carrie and Mike have been university region planners for quite a while with the Michigan Department of Transportation. And today we are inviting them to hear about the US23 Flex Route and the associated non-motorized connections within our county. So with that housekeeping out of the way, I'd like to go ahead and turn this presentation over to, I believe, Carrie, who's going to start us off.
Yeah, thank you. Let me share my screen here. Can you see that?
Yep.
Perfect. Let me see. Let me just get my notes. So. Yeah, so thank you for having me back. I know I presented to the Brown Bag Lunch group several years ago after the opening of the first phase of the Flex Route. My name is Carrie Martin, and thank you for inviting Mike and I to chat with you about the upcoming Flex Route extension. Mike and I are both region planners for the MDOT University region, which is the region that maintains and manages the state transportation network for 9 counties in South Central Michigan. I'm also the project manager for the US23 Flex Route, Phase 2 operational and environmental study. And today we're going to present a status update of the study to extend the Flex Route from its existing endpoint south of M36 north to I-96 in Livingston County, and include some discussion about the non-motorized improvements at the M36 and Silver Lake Road interchanges. I will discuss the impacts of the construction of Phase 1 on the US23 corridor, give an overview of this next phase and the purpose and goals of the construction project, discuss existing conditions, present the recommended interchange alternatives at the M36 and Silver Lake Road interchanges, and let you know where we are with the environmental analysis and lay out the next steps for the project. So Governor Whitmer included the extension of the US23 Flex Route in her 2020 Rebuilding Michigan Bond Program. She allocated approximately $150 million to begin the construction of the project in 2023. The funding includes money for design, right-of-way acquisition, and construction. The Rebuilding Michigan corridor projects are focused primarily on state highways and bridges that are critical to the Michigan economy and that carry the most traffic. For more information on the Rebuilding Michigan corridors that were included in the governor's program, you can visit our 5-year plan on our MDOT website, or contact me, Mike, or Monica Mansma, who is our MDOT Public Involvement Officer. The US23 Flex Route is the state's first use of a gantry system to actively manage corridor congestion and operations. The first phase between M14 and M36 was fully open to traffic in 2018. With its measurable success, MDOT began looking for ways to move phase 2 forward to further improve corridor operations and safety, which is to continue the flex route from south of M36 to the I-96 interchange. The inclusion of the project in the governor's bond program enabled MDOT to begin an operational and environmental study to assess public sentiment for the project, traffic safety and operations, road and bridge scoping, environmental analysis and surveys, and finalizing with environmental documentation that will be submitted to the Federal Highway Administration. So the flex route is dynamic, active, and real time. It's monitored through the use of full camera coverage 24 hours a day by MDOT's statewide Transportation Operations Center that's located in Lansing. Gantries are spaced every half mile and are used to monitor and control traffic to improve flow and safety during the peak hours of the day and during incidents and events. Through data collection of phase 1, we've documented improvements in travel time and reliability, especially in the southbound direction in the morning. Speeds have increased in both directions. While crashes are up in the northbound direction, overall the crashes have been reduced. However, because of the endpoint at M36, we know that the biggest benefit of the extension is going to be for the northbound direction in the afternoon. MDOT would actually like to thank everyone who was involved in the phase 1 project to make it a success. We also had individuals who participated in MDOT's joint research study with Michigan State. The focus groups kind of were really shared some keen insights, which are allowing us to build in best practices for this next phase of construction. The research project is kind of continuing and will further investigate corridor performance and the flex route's impacts on safety. So in general, the purpose of the study is to focus on traffic safety and operational needs for the corridor and the interchanges by addressing the directional weekday, Monday through Friday peak period congestion, and assess the road and bridge infrastructure condition. Through the development of safe, efficient, sustainable transportation improvements that will ensure that the corridor will meet current and future highway operations by using state-of-the-art traffic control technology along with improved infrastructure. So to move forward, the study team focused on alternatives that are economically feasible in this day and age of restricted funding, pavement and bridge condition and maintenance, ways to mitigate congestion, traffic operations at the M36 Silver Lake Road and the connection between the Lee Road and I-96 interchanges, including on-ramps that are short and that do not allow for adequate acceleration and merging and weaving of traffic, looking at high crash segments and incident management areas where crashes can be safely cleared and investigated. The study includes scoping the road and bridges from a conditions standpoint to determine improvement needs to accommodate the extension of the flex route to 96, modeling the mainline traffic to extend the flex route, and modeling traffic to determine the recommended alternatives for the M36 and Silver Lake Road interchanges to improve their traffic operations and safety. Environmental analyses to identify potential environmental impact locations for the future build configuration, and documentation to environmentally clear the alternatives to move into design, right-of-way acquisition, and the construction phases. Environmental documentation is a requirement of the National Environmental Policy Act and a requirement to use federal transportation funding. So I'm sure that all of you recognize the challenges along the US23 corridor north of Ann Arbor. The flex route was constructed to address the corridor's significant peak hour congestion As many people reside in Livingston County and northern Washtenaw County, work in downtown Ann Arbor, or commute east along M14 to the Detroit area. And also to help address significant non-recurring congestion in the form of U of M game day traffic incidents and consistent summer tourism travel. The section of US 23 between M36 and 96 still experiences these issues, and phase 2 will improve the morning southbound congestion near the eastbound 96 ramp and the Silver Lake Road interchange, and will improve the northbound direction where the flex route currently ends south of M36 and near the Lee Road and I-96 ramps. So even though the pandemic has changed traffic patterns along the corridor, we do continue to see traffic volumes trending upward. And so we are moving forward with the improvement in that we do see that trend of upward traffic continuing. We analyzed crashes from 2015 to 2019 and found that the highest percentage of crashes was near the interchange areas, with 99 crashes per year in the southbound direction and 228 crashes per year in the northbound direction, which was not surprising. We found also that a high percentage of these crashes were rear end crashes, which are typically tied to various forms of congestion. Short acceleration and deceleration lanes at the interchanges also have an impact on safety and crash numbers. We are confident that extending the use of the flex routes, real-time dynamic shoulder, monitoring speeds, crash investigation sites, interchange improvements, ramp extensions, dynamic message signs, and camera coverage to manage traffic and incidents will not only improve the phase 2 section, but will also improve the safety operations at the endpoint of the existing phase 1 section. So with the bridges, with the corridor being built in the 1950s and 60s, the pavement, bridges, and interchange geometrics in the phase 2 section are aging and substandard. The shoulders are narrow, the acceleration and deceleration lanes are short. The pavement condition is fair to poor, and the bridges are narrow and in fair condition. So to summarize, the flex route is dynamic, active, and real time. The US 23 corridor will continue to be monitored through the use of full camera coverage 24 hours a day by MDOT's statewide Transportation Operations Center. The additional gantries will be spaced every half mile and will be used to improve traffic flow and safety during the peak hours of the day and during incidents and events. Once completed, your community will have a flex route system on US 23 that extends from M14 north all the way to I-96. I'd also like to point out that other flex route projects are being studied and planned. The I-96 flex route between Kent Lake Road and I-96 will begin construction this year. And a second phase between US 23 and Kent Lake Road is being analyzed for a future year. While there is no construction date for the phase 2 I-96 project, we've been working really closely with the I-96 team to make sure that the US 23 flex route operates seamlessly with or without the second phase of the I-96 project. So the preferred alternative for the I-96 US 23 interchange, for the northbound direction, the flex lane will be extended from where it currently ends near 9 Mile M36 north toward I-96. This is shown in the green on the graphic. Then the flex route shoulder will become a dedicated lane or an auxiliary lane at Lee Road for the left-hand exit to westbound, onto westbound I-96, which is shown in blue. This will be similar to what happens currently on the flex route today for, if you can envision the southbound traffic at M14. We added an extra lane to kind of properly split the traffic. Heading southbound, the flex lane will start just before Lee Road, but prior to that, an auxiliary lane will be added on US 23 on the right between the eastbound I-96 ramp which is shown here in red. This will help balance the traffic in this segment. In addition to the flex route extension, this project will also add ramp metering to the Spencer Road on-ramp to eastbound I-96. This will help to reduce the congestion on I-96 as it approaches the US 23 interchange and help with the merging and weaving at that location. So along with the bridge improvements at the Silver Lake Road and M36 interchanges, the two Grand River Avenue bridges over US 23 will be rehabilitated. The railroad bridge over US 23 will not be replaced. However, the main line will be reconfigured underneath to accommodate the flex route operations. The Lee Road Bridge will be rehabilitated. And the two bridges over the Huron River will be modified due to medium widening to accommodate the flex route extension. And with that, I am going to pass the next handful of slides over to Mike Davis to talk about the preferred alternatives at the Silver Lake Road, M36 interchanges, and also some future planning efforts for non-motorized for the area.
Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it. So as for everybody can hear me, hopefully okay. So as for the other aspects of the project, both the Silver Lake interchanges and M36 interchange carry US 23 traffic over the local road network. And these bridges at these locations will be widened and rehabilitated to accommodate the flex route extension. Due to the widening, the interchange operations needs to be addressed. So the interchange that you see here at Silver Lake Road is a complex one. The existing interchange is a tight diamond configuration with some closely spaced intersections at Whitmore Lake Road and Fieldcrest Road. So MDOT proposed two interchange alternatives, a single point urban interchange or a SPUI, which is like the interchanges that you might be familiar with at US 23 and M59 or at the I-96 Becks Road and Wixom Road interchanges, as well as a roundabout alternative. And that includes roundabouts at each ramp terminal with multiple legs, as you can see here on this slide, to include Whitmore Lake Road and the Fieldcrest Road. So in response to the comments that we received at the public meeting we held in July 2020, MDOT will modify the existing tight diamond interchange to a roundabout configuration that you see here. So also, this slide shows our preferred alternatives for our non-motorized aspects on these two interchanges. So per the comments that we obtained at the public meeting and as well as coordination with Green Oak Township regarding their non-motorized plan and future planning efforts, a 10-foot shared use path will be constructed on both sides of the Silver Lake Road that you can see here in the proposed layout on the bottom. And that'll continue through the roundabouts. You'll notice here that the slope walls underneath the bridge will be modified to add in that path. In keeping with the theme of roundabouts along the corridor, the preferred alternative at M36 is a series of roundabouts at the M36 9-mile road interchange. And this will improve the traffic flow and eliminate the current partial cloverleaf interchange layout that causes backups and driver confusion on 9-mile road, especially in the peak hours throughout the day. So on this slide with the preferred non-motorized alternatives, like the Silver Road interchange, comments are received at the public meeting and meetings with our Green Oak Township partnership regarding their future non-motorized planning efforts. A 10-foot shared path will be constructed on both sides of M36 and will continue through the roundabouts. Similar to Silver Lake Road, the slope walls will be modified to add the path. And further discussions and coordinations with Green Oak Township will take place regarding the design of both the M36 and the Silver Lake Road interchanges during the design phase of the project that will begin later this spring. So that brings me to the efforts by SEMCOG, MDOT, and Livingston County to work with non-motorized representatives on wider coordination and plans throughout the county. So in January 14th of this year, SEMCOG and MDOT hosted a large stakeholder meeting where we discussed larger connectivity needs and various opportunities that were discussed throughout the county. So some things that were discussed in at this meeting were possible connections between the Island Lake Rec area and the Huron Meadows Rec area, connections into the Lakelands Trail, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, the Lakelands Trail system, our flex route impacted interchanges, and our Grand River Avenue and various local road network connections. So in addition, there, as I said just a minute ago, there will be additional stakeholder meetings and design options for how non-motorized users will traverse the roundabouts as we begin our detailed design work this spring. So in our next slide here, so what next when it comes to regional non-motorized connections? So we had our first kind of kickoff meeting that was, I think, very positive, and we had a lot of people at the table. So we plan on continuing these discussions with our local agencies and stakeholder groups. And just a few important takeaways here. So we realize it's really important to have local unified direction and a plan that MDOT is aware of, and that we can work into new and incorporate into new projects as they come up throughout in the region. And that we always remind everyone that MDOT works as a partner for regional trails. So we don't lead, we don't lag, we are your partner and to achieve goals for both our trunk line system as well as regional connectivity and the trail system. Gary, I'll kick it back to you for for environmental findings.
Great, thanks, Mike. So as far as the preliminary environmental findings, 4 impacts pretty much stood out as of primary concern through the study. The Threatened and Endangered Species Survey identified the federally protected snuffbox mussel in the Huron River. MDOT has completed a biological assessment and is coordinating with the US Fish and Wildlife Service to mitigate for that impact that the construction will have on the snuffbox. So more of that to come. We've submitted the biological assessment and we'll be getting a determination back from them sometime later, early this summer, I believe. Wetlands and watershed areas will be minimized or mitigated, with most of the work being completed in the median, except at the interchanges. Impacts outside of MDOT right away have a minimal effect. And then the noise, the draft noise analysis is complete, and the draft report is on MDOT's website for review. So what are the next steps? The environmental NEPA documentation will be submitted to the Federal Highway Administration early this summer. It is a categorical exclusion, which through Federal Highway Administration, that is one of the lower levels of documentation. However, it is the same level of analysis. It's just a lower level of documentation that was provided. Design will begin this spring with right-of-way acquisition following as Mike mentioned, with an appropriate level of design completion and some level of construction to begin in 2023. Also, Mike mentioned that there will be some more discussions about the interchange designs and the impact that the non-motorized has on those interchange designs. We'll also have more public and stakeholder involvement and provide additional information as we move into the design and construction phases of the project to keep you up to date. So with that, I don't know if there are any questions or any further discussion, but that kind of concludes our presentation.
Rob, do you see anyone using the raise hand function under participants?
Let's see.
I've got my hand up.
Leo Hannafin.
Thanks. A couple quick questions. I'm on the steering committee of the Livingston County Transportation Coalition by way of introduction. I'm curious, will there be any widening of the non-motorized on the Grand River bridges? And also, could you show exactly how the non-motorized will get around the traffic intersections? Like how many roads will they have to cross in either direction on the M36 and Silver Lake interchanges?
So Grand River Avenue is kind of part of that longer term discussion. We are not, we are doing some, I'm going to call it rehabilitation, but that's, you know, it's more of a minor fix. It's not a full replacement. When we get to fully replacing a structure is kind of when those non-motorized components can be added to that. One thing is Grand River Avenue is not under MDOT's jurisdiction. So it is under the Livingston County Road Commission's jurisdiction in that area. So we would coordinate, and I think that's why we're kind of proposing that larger discussion of non-motorized needs in the county, so that, you know, the road commission, the township, and MDOT can all be on the same page once that replacement does come to fruition at some point in time based on conditions. So as far as the preferred alternative for the Silver Lake Road interchange, this is kind of how the operations and as you can see kind of through the roundabout, the crossings are kind of at a 90-degree angle. These are 10-foot wide paths. And so there's, you know, there's the ability to actually use the path on both sides for both bikes and peds. There will be, as kind of mentioned by Mike, there's going to be more discussion about the design of the non-motorized path as we get kind of into the design phase. And I know that Green Oak Township is underway with looking at some parallel routing of paths parallel to US23. So Mike, I don't know if, did you have anything else to add?
Yeah, so the initial design for how the non-motorized path will cross the ramps is we do have them at currently, correct me if I'm wrong, Carrie, the majority of the ramps are free flow at this point, but we are still in the detailed design, and we have discussed, and we will be discussing whether or not the free flow is actually the best safety option, if it works for all the users. So that is something we're going to examine. It's not a for sure done deal. But what we've done in this portion of the alternative analysis is make sure that we've adequately given space to these non-motorized paths so that if they are free flow, there will be easy sight lines for both drivers and pedestrians and bicyclists. So as Carrie mentioned, having them at 90-degree angles so that there isn't a situation where it's kind of drivers are looking obliquely at cyclists and pedestrians and vice versa. So that's the initial where we're at this stage, but there's going to be more work to be done, and we do have a stakeholder group for non-motorized users that will be able to bring into our design as we get into that. So
Good, thank you. I'm really delighted you're taking a serious look at this and planning to accommodate in some way. That's really helpful for this whole system of bike paths that's becoming a real unique asset to our county. I think it can attract a lot of actual tourists coming to ride this extensive array of paths that we got here.
yeah, indeed.
Thanks, Leo.
MDOT staff asking us what's going on as well. So we know we have lots of users out using the Livingston County Trail.
So I'm seeing a few more hands. I don't know who put their hand up first, but
Yeah, we can go with Scott and then Maggie, I think it was.
Okay, perfect.
Well, I don't want to digress from the non-motorized discussions that we're having, but I was wondering if either yourself or Mike could expound just a little bit on any plans MDOT has for electric vehicles, maybe retrofitting your park and ride facilities, et cetera. I think that was one of the bullet points of interest that a lot of our attendees was wanting to hear about as well.
Yeah, so yes, MDOT does continue to, we do have, you know, an ITS strategy for Intelligent Transportation System Network. And looking at the connected vehicle, especially the vehicle to infrastructure technology in particular. So yes, we as a part of the previous Flex Route Phase 1, we did work closely with the University of Michigan's M-City to look at conduit to make sure that we were kind of forward thinking about what was needed from that type of standpoint. I know that we have different deployments around the state for corridor connection. This would be another probably a topic that we could share at one of these future meetings if you're interested, because yeah, we do have different things going on with deployment of red light violation warnings, work zone warnings, road weather management, and different things during construction or, you know, based on pavement condition. A lot of information about, you know, working with Planet M, working with GM. We were working on a study by Cavenue to look at electric vehicle corridor network along Michigan Avenue and I-94 from Detroit to Ann Arbor. So yeah, there's a lot going on with MDOT, and that would be something that we could definitely work to share with you if you're interested.
Okay, we have Maggie Egan. Maggie, you have a question?
Yes, I was interested in an area that's just south of the slide that you have up right now. I feel like there's just a quarter of a mile more south of there that I'd be interested in looking at a little more closely. You probably don't have anything available right now, but
not on this, but again, I think so we as a department under Phase 1, and I don't know which side of the road you're thinking, but on the southwest side, we did purchase right-of-way to make sure that we could connect properly between 9 Mile and 8 Mile Road to the south. So we did purchase some additional right-of-way on the southbound side. But I can get you, and again, as we move into the design phase, we'll have a lot more information to share as far as what the actual layout looks like for that section.
okay, I'm interested in both the east and the west, but I live on the east side, just below where that slide shows.
Okay.
And I'm hoping there still will be at least pedestrian access from North Main through that field, and that it doesn't get cut off too much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Okay, how about Chris Barr?
Hello. So I commute this route every day. And I was just curious, I know you had said towards the beginning, estimated start is 2023. About how long does the construction project, is that expected? I know it's construction, so who knows delays and whatnot, but.
Yeah, and it's kind of hard for me to say, I mean, because a lot of it depends on how we will be able to maintain traffic. Are we gonna, I mean, typically our strategy is to make sure that we maintain 2 lanes in each direction at all times. But that does sometimes draw out the construction time frame. I know that we were successful with that on the first phase, so I anticipate that we're going to try our best to do the same thing. But really, primarily what we're looking at is 2023, we'll have our early start of construction. It's going to be at least 1 full construction season And then, but we'll know more as we get into the design phase. It's really, really difficult to answer that question without being able to determine the MOT, because it is challenging here.
Right.
And as you know, there's not a whole lot of parallel routes.
No.
So it's just, it makes it a challenge. So
That's kind of why I was wondering, because there is not a lot of parallel routes.
no, there's not. So, but that is something, you know, and always happy to come back and talk with you guys and provide more updates on where we are with the design schedule and all of that. So we can definitely, you know, participate in future meetings just to keep you up to date. And there will be more stakeholder meetings and public meetings through that design process too. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, we'll go Chris Barr and then, I'm sorry, Keith Jones and then Jareen Rice. Keith still on there?
Are you on mute? Keith?
I'm still on here.
There you go.
I thought there was
Okay.
someone else prior to me. Good morning. I live on Whitmore Lake Road between Silver Lake Road and Lee Road. And the issue that I have is the noise and the vibration that comes through from the traffic going southbound. I mean, there are some times where I'll be sitting in my house and it feels like there's an earthquake going by. Has that been addressed? I mean, I in the original meetings that were held, I actually submitted some pictures where the ceiling in my house had been cracking because of the vibration and fell to the floor that I had to eventually fix. And then my front windows, the seals around those have been cracked because of the vibration that it's taking. So I wanted to know if there's anything going to be done to address that volume or for the additional traffic. I grew up in Plymouth at Ann Arbor Road and 275, and we lived probably half a mile off of the freeway, and you could still hear it there. So me being up so close, I'm worried that this is going to be a huge increase in both the noise and the vibration.
So as I mentioned, we did analyze noise, and we do have a draft noise report for public comment. I can get you a copy of that, and I can also get you in contact with our noise expert.
Okay.
Because yeah, we did analyze the corridor for noise assessment and noise walls. It's kind of an intricate study. So
Right.
if you are interested, I can get you some more information on that and where
Yes,
exactly
definitely.
we looked and the receptors and all that stuff. So.
All right.
And we got Jareen Rice.
Hi, I'm Jareen Rice. I work for Civil Engineering Solutions. We are the township engineer for Green Oak Township. And I want to let you know, letters have been sent out. We're looking at the bike path on the west side of Whitmore Lake, or the west side of US 23 along Whitmore Lake Road. And letters were sent out to the residents along Whitmore Lake Road between M36 and Silver Lake to let them know of this upcoming project. And we have a meeting with the residents scheduled for next week, just to get an update on the project.
Yeah, thank you, Jareen. Yeah, we've been in pretty close contact with the township and working to kind of make sure that our projects kind of coincide the best that they can. So yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, how about Lee Burton?
Hi, I'm Lee Burton with the Livingston County Transportation Coalition and Crossroads Sierra Club. Just wondering if you could comment on likely intersection closings during the construction phase.
Yeah, that's another one that we'll have to kind of work through the design time frame, and then once we get a contractor on board, they sometimes have better ideas, and they, you know, so they kind of make some different suggestions. So that I can't really answer that question right now, but I can definitely make sure that we, you know, provide that information in the future. So, because I know under phase one, we had to make some adjustments and some closures, especially I think it was at 6 Mile. And so again, our one of our priorities is mobility. So, you know, we do our best to make sure that the roads are kept open for that mobility purpose. So we can definitely get you some more information as we move forward. Sorry, I didn't have a great answer, but
Okay, up next we have Larry Deck.
Yeah, has there been any consideration of extending the Lakelands Trail under US 23 through the old railroad underpass and opening up that underpass, and then how that might affect the design of the M36 interchange? There appears to be some advantage in getting the trail under 23 at that point rather than farther north, because it would minimize the number of road crossings.
yeah, so I'm gonna punt that over to Mike Davis, since he's kind of working on the longer term plan. So Mike, if you could maybe answer that question for Larry.
You did. There we go. Sure. That has not come up in any of our stakeholders discussions. Larry, the first person that that said that there's a railroad bridge underneath 23. I didn't even know it was there. So I think that would be a good discussion to have as we move forward. Bridges under, existing bridges under the freeway are much easier to get approval for federal highway than a bridge over. So I think that would be something we could explore going forward. Carrie, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think that would impact this project at all. If I'm looking at the right railroad bridge, but
It'd be down at M36.
Yeah, no, that would be something that we would have to look at for kind of a future longer term. Because that's one of the things too, is there's so many great trails network around this area that, we want to make sure that for the future that we're kind of accommodating and looking at all of those things. So that's one thing we can add to the list of future discussion. So.
Okay.
yeah, and I'll reach out to you after this, Larry, to make sure we have you on the stakeholder list for those SEMCOG meetings going forward.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
The railroad was just south of M36 there.
Okay.
Okay, up next we have Jim Fackert.
Hi, I'm Jim Fackert. I'm chairman of the Friends of the Lakelands Trail and involved in the Green Oak Township Committee. I'd like to hear about the meeting on the west side connection up Whitmore Lake Road for trails, the citizens meeting, please. Also, the Lakelands Trail follows the old rail line from Hamburg up over to 23. There was a tunnel under US 23 for that rail line. It's basically, if you look at the Lakelands Trail approaching 23 and go straight across US 23, that's where the tunnel was. It was filled in some time ago, decades ago, and nobody seems to know what exists and what doesn't. But the story at the time was that it was just filled with fill, and it was a rail tunnel under the freeway, so it's probably a very substantial structure. It's a hot topic amongst people in the area because coming under 23 in a solely trail tunnel would eliminate complications of the M36 9-mile underpass pedestrian aspects. It would help it would create a connection to the pedestrian trail from the south, from Whitmore Lake and the north side and village of Whitmore Lake, and it's a pretty interesting concept. But the key is what's left of that tunnel. Does it make any sense at all to think about it? And if we could, it would be great to put that to rest. Either it's a possibility or it isn't. Because on the one hand, it's a great idea. On the other hand, and it could be cheap and it could be really expensive. Which is it? Also comment that the Silver Lake Road connection is really, improvements are really exciting. The underpass under 23 at Silver Lake Road is very low and there's a lot of drainage complications, you might consider the two 10-foot paths on each side, which there's plenty of room for on the slopes behind the main support beams, be elevated somewhat from the roadway. That would really simplify the drainage issues under the bridge. And I'd also like to comment that the M36 9-mile decoupling field crest from the northbound freeway entrance at M36 and 9 Mile is a huge safety improvement and opens up field crest to be a practical trail route for Green Oak to connect 36 up to the existing field crest trail up at Silver Lake Road. And there was some objection from residents about having a trail there in their front yards. But if the residents' benefit is that, gosh, now you don't have a freeway entrance in your front yard anymore. You've just got a nice little field crest drive, local road. And would you accept a little bike trail along there if we take away the northbound freeway entrance? Might be a strategy to work to promote that field crest trail. This is really exciting because it worked for decades to connect the Lakelands Trail into the Great Lakes to Lakes Trail and get it all the way across the state and across the county and across the state. And US23 has been the big barricade. And now trails are connected to both sides from Island Lake Recreation area through the mall down Field Crest to Silver Lake Road, and from Hamburg Township across Green Oak, across Maxey up to 23 on the west side. All we got to do is connect from one side of the freeway to the other. And then there's all sorts of opportunities for communities from the north and the south to connect into that trail too. So I'm really, really excited that you guys are embracing the inclusion of pedestrian in this so strongly and so thoughtfully. Thank you.
Yeah, and thanks for the comments about the rail line and the tunnel. So something that wasn't really in my site. I'll do some investigating with our rail division within the department. We do say on the roadside, they're a bit like having a separate agency inside the department. So we'll do our best to reach out, and if we can get someone to come to the next joint SEMCOG-MDOT coordination meeting, we will try to get them there, but at the very least start having some discussions for future efforts on the local with the local stakeholders. So I appreciate both Larry and Jim bringing those to our attention. Anything else, Carrie?
Yeah, no, one other thing, and as I'm looking at this slide, I just want to point out too, that we will be removing this park and ride lot, but we will be replacing it and most likely in this area up here in the north west quadrant. So there will be some changes there, which will also help with traffic flow because you're getting that driveway out of that mixture with the roundabouts. And then also at Silver Lake Road, and you really can't see it very well, but our new design will cut through that park and ride, and we will be shifting that park and ride to the north. We will not be removing it. We will be kind of replacing it just to the north of this picture here. So just to let you know that that's also part of the discussion. So.
Okay, we have a couple. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I wanted to let Mike Davis know this is Maggie Egan. I had reached out to Mr. Sweeney. I think he's
he's our service center manager.
Right, okay, so he was my only contact person from the first phase of the flex route. So I emailed him a few months ago with questions about the old railroad tunnel. So he did investigate some things for me. So
okay.
he'll be a good contact for you.
Great, thank you.
It was filled in '93. So it sounds like there's some infrastructure buried, but it's been buried since '93. And then the top half of the bridge was removed. And that was partly why I asked the question about the area that's just outside, just south of the slide that you have, is because that's about where that tunnel would be, just outside of the view of that slide you have. And I too would like information of Jareen. I'd like information about the resident meeting next week.
I will, in fact, this is Jareen. We are meeting with 3 property owners next week, and we're setting up meetings almost individually as they want to have information.
So it's property owners along that specific area.
Correct.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Keith has another question coming around the second time here.
Yeah, that was also pertaining to what Janine said about the survey and the meeting that was brought up that they were mailed out. And I think I live in the area that she was referring to, but I have not seen anything. So I wanted to know how long ago that those surveys or those mailings were sent out.
I believe Mark St. Charles sent the letter out probably 2 weeks ago. And again, so it's like M36 to Silver Lake Road, if that's indeed, again, on the west side.
Yeah, I'm on the west side, but I'm further north of that. I'm between Silver Lake Road and Lee Road.
Okay, so that was not included in the letters
Okay.
that were sent out.
Is there going to be a bike path on that side, on the Whitmore Lake Road side, between Lee Road and Silver Lake Road?
That is what we're exploring at this point.
Okay, because there's not a lot of room in between the road and the front of my property. So that's what my concern would be.
So I believe the idea was to take it to Silver Lake and cross Silver Lake and have the connection be from there. So I don't think at this point that extending north of Silver Lake.
I believe that's what the discussion was, heading from where it currently exists on the east side, crossing at Silver Lake, and then heading down on the west side. I believe that's what the future discussions were.
Okay, so it sounds like it would skip the area that I'm in.
Correct.
I think
Okay.
so. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, Kathleen.
Oh, yes, I had a motorized question and a non-motorized question. Carrie, you had mentioned that there would be ramp metering on Spencer Road. I'm not familiar, or I can't visualize what that is. Is it a traffic light arrangement where it tells you when to go?
Yeah, so it's and I mean, it's not necessarily a traffic light, but it creates like a yield condition. So the person on the ramp has to kind of wait for traffic to clear to get onto the freeway. I can get you some more information on that. I am not sure exactly what the full design of that looks like, but I can get you some more detailed information. We are also incorporating some of those on I-96 with the 96 flex route near like the Novi area. And we are going to put together some sort of educational campaign for that. So like how to use them and that sort of thing. So I can make sure that I get that information to you when we have it. So.
Okay. And then as far as non-motorized, a resident recently mentioned to me that under I-96 in Ingham County, there is a pathway along Sycamore Creek that goes under I-96. And he wondered whether or not the 2 Huron River bridges that you're modifying on US23 would have enough headspace in order for there to be trails underneath along the river.
Yeah, I'd have to kind of talk with our bridge folks to see if that would even be a possibility. Because adding more structure to that structure, I'm not sure if we'd be able to do that at that location, but I can definitely ask the question for you of our bridge folks.
And just one detail about that bridge is it's a little bit controversial with our transportation alternatives program managers because of the flooding in that area. they feel like there's significant downsides of having funded that connection, because there's basically unusable in the spring and in the fall. So there is some significant kind of hurdles with targeting these low-lying areas, I think in future funding discussions. So it's kind of two factors for you to add to that list, Kathleen. Something I did not know about before talking to them recently about that project. So.
Okay, thank you. You mean there's flooding issues along Sycamore Creek?
Yes.
Okay.
In that trail.
Okay.
Okay, as far as my clock says, we got about 3 or 4 minutes here, and I have Jim Fackert, and then I'm not sure if Keith Jones had another question, but I think we'll leave off with Jim and Keith.
I actually don't have another question. I don't know
I
why.
just have a couple of quick comments.
Okay, then we'll leave off with Jim here.
It would be really, I know it's way easier said than done, but it would be really helpful to show on these maps, since they're showing pedestrian, the brand new, just completed Green Oak leg of the Lakelands Trail that's coming in from the west, just south of M36, because that's a pretty major connection to tie all this pedestrian to. It's just beyond that image, just south of, I think that one built, there's a McDonald's on the, between Whitmore Lake Road and 23, there's McDonald's, and there's Val Services. Then on the left, the old is where the old rail line, the trail is built in the old rail line and comes into Whitmore Lake Road. And it kind of ends there now. The other comment is that the river coming under the freeway is basically those two, the river corridor under the freeway is concrete walls and river. It rises and falls a few feet, but it doesn't flood in there at all. We had proposed years and years ago the possibility of even an elevated, just a sort of a elevated bike pathway under there. And if seasonally it had 6 inches of water on it, it wouldn't be a big deal, but it would encroach on the river flow, and that's a bad thing. So, but it's the water is not too crazy there. The water levels. That's it. Thanks again.
Hey, that was all of our questions. So I guess either Scott or Kathleen or Carrie or Mike want to wrap up.
Carrie or Mike, do you have anything to add before we close today?
No, just thanks for having us. I put our contact information on the screen there. So if you have any other questions, or like I mentioned, the noise report, Keith mentioned that he wanted to potentially see a copy. I can, if you send me your email, I can make sure that I get the information to you. So but yeah, thank you for your time today.
Yeah, we just want to thank you and Mike, and for all of our attendees today. We will be emailing out a brief evaluation of today's Brown Bag Lunch event via Zoom, and seeking additional topics from all the attendees and our local constituents as well. So we'd like to thank everyone, and until next time, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Thank you.